Hello, everyone, and good morning. My name is Mayuri, and it's a pleasure to welcome you to the webinar today. I'm a senior outreach specialist here at JoVE, and before I go into the session, I would like to go over some of the housekeeping items. Yeah, so the session is recorded and it will be shared with you. You are going to be able to, rewatch the session, have a look, and also absorb as much information as you want in the future, and also perhaps share it with your colleagues and your friends or anyone who might you think might benefit from this content. There is a Q&A box, which you can use to ask me as many questions as you'd like. Towards the end of the session, we'll get to interact and answer as many questions as we can. As always, this is a JoVE webinar. All of our webinars are completely free to attend because we want to create a shared community, that's able to exchange ideas. And we also want to do something that advances research and education. That is our mission. And so without further ado, it is my pleasure to welcome you to today's session. We're going to be discussing a topic that's become essential in higher education, which is universal design for learning, or simply put, UDL. This session is how we can design courses that genuinely work for every kind of learner right from the start. All right, and before I move on to my next slide, which is just a quick warm-up poll, I do want to hear from the audience today. You feel free to drop in the chat box where you're joining us from, which part of the world you're joining us from. It's always great to hear from you too. And yes, before I dive into the session, like I said, I want to begin with a quick warm-up poll, just to get a sense of where everyone is in terms of their familiarity with UDL. And this is no pressure. I just want to get the conversation started. So I'm going to drop a poll, the first poll for this session. Yes, there's going to be one more. There you go. So once I understand how familiar everybody is with UDL already, um, and it doesn't matter if you haven't heard of UDL before, because that's what we're here for. Whether you are someone who already practices this in your courses, or someone who has absolutely, never heard of it before, or maybe heard of it but never really put it into practice, this session is going to be useful for you for each stage, uh, any stage of UDL that you're currently at. And I can see the poll is still coming. All right, about 50% of the audience, and let me actually share the results with everyone, so we can all take a look. Yeah, so about 50% of the audience is are not familiar with UDL, and I'm actually surprised to see. I'm very happy to see the 20% are, and yeah, there's of course they're familiar, but they haven't put into practice. All good answers, all fine, because even if you haven't heard about UDL before, this session will be valuable and insightful for you, and you will take some immediately applicable strategies from this session. All right, let's start with the basics. What is UDL? Universal Design for Learning is a flexible, research-backed framework that helps us design learning experiences that meet the needs of a wide variety of students from the very beginning. It helps reduce barriers, it boosts motivation, and also creates multiple pathways for students to access and also demonstrate their knowledge. Um, I'm actually going to, I have defined UDL, but I'm going to give you a better analogy to compare this with a real life example. Think of it like designing a city. You build ramps, you will build wide pavements, there will be clear signage, lifts, multiple transport options in the city. All of these features will make the city usable for people with different needs. And the beauty is that everyone benefits from this. So UDL is the same. we are not lowering the expectations for the students. We're simply removing obstacles so that every learner can meet them. Um, and I've also had a look at some comments in the chat in the quick second there. Welcome everyone. Thank you for dropping in. You know the places where you're tuning in from. I hope this is valuable for everyone. And yeah, I hope this analogy works. I love explaining UDL using this analogy. Uh, like it's sort of like designing a new city. Now, in higher educations, our classrooms have become incredibly diverse. Students vary widely in their prior knowledge, their language proficiency, execution, executive functioning skills, or what you call cognitive skills, sensory processing, apologies there, maybe even anxiety levels, life circumstances, and of course, accessibility needs. Now, traditional teaching models assume a fairly uniform student population, and that's no longer the reality. UDL acknowledges that this diversity, and it also equips us with a framework to meet the students where they are. Research has also shown some consistent challenges with the traditional lecture format. The first one being that attention drops significantly after about 10 to 15 minutes in the session. Passive lecture based environments are linked to lower student performance compared to active or multimodal approaches. And our working memory has limitations. A dense single format lecture can easily overwhelm learners. UDL directly addresses these limitations by diversifying the way we are presenting content and engaging students. Now, UDL isn't just a pedagogical trend, it's based in cognitive neuroscience. Scientists have identified three major brain networks that guide how we learn. And I'll just go to the next slide. These are the three brain networks that influence how we learn. Let's unpack these networks briefly. The affective network is all about motivation, what sparks interest, what keeps students engaged, and what helps them persist. The recognition network focuses on how students perceive and understand information, how they decode text, interpret visuals, and follow explanations. And the strategic network governs planning, organizing, problem solving, and also applying this knowledge or expressing knowledge. I will now connect those brain networks directly to how UDL or Universal Design for Learning supports them. So, UDL gives us strategies to support each one of them. For the affective network, UDL encourages multiple ways to engage. Either it's through polls, choices, real world examples, and I will go into the depth of each of these examples that I'm providing, real world examples I'm providing, but just to name a few. For the recognition network, UDL promotes multiple ways to present information, whether it's through diagrams, videos, captions, step by step breakdowns. For the strategic network, UDL supports multiple ways for students to express what they have learned, whether it's through a written test, an oral test, or a video, demonstrations, and so on. So, UDL isn't random, it's an intentionally designed format to support the brain's learning curve. We will discuss, like I mentioned, each of these examples in further detail in the next few slides. All right. So, ultimately, UDL boils down to three principles. And the first principle of UDL is engagement, basically, the why of learning. This is about sparking an interest and keeping the students motivated. Simple things work really well here. For example, short polls, quick scenario questions, offering choices between assignment formats, and also connecting content to real world or discipline specific relevant examples. The second principle is representation, the what of learning. Students understand information differently. So, offering it in multiple forms helps them connect with it. It can be as simple as combining a diagram with a short video, pre teaching key vocabulary, or breaking complex processes into labeled bite sized steps that are easy to digest, easy to follow. When we give students visuals or short explanations and structured steps, we reduce cognitive load and also make it easier for everyone to follow, especially in STEM. And the third UDL principle is action and expression, the how of learning. Students differ in how they best show what they know. UDL encourages them more than one by giving them more than one pathway wherever possible. Maybe a short video reflection, maybe a written explanation, an oral presentation, or even a diagram of what they have learned to express their knowledge. Clear guidelines and small checkpoints also support students in staying on track with these principles. Now, we've defined UDL. We've also looked at how it's based in cognitive neuroscience. We've looked at the real core brain pathways which are supported by UDL, and we've also spoken about the principles that universal design for learning is based on. Now we come to the most important part, and the next question is, what does a UDL aligned classroom actually look like in practice, and how can you make it happen? So I would now walk you through some concrete examples that are also easy to implement. The first and the best and the easiest way to incorporate universal design for learning is through videos. Videos are one of the simplest ways to embed UDL into a course. These videos need to be accessible to support every kind of learner. To make them accessible, we need to ensure that there are certain features in place so that every kind of learner benefits from the video content. And here's to name a few. Short videos help reduce cognitive load. That's true. Audio description is incredibly powerful for visually impaired students and anyone who benefits from hearing visual information. A little sneak peek into this exact example is coming in the next few slides. And captions and multiple language options support multilingual learners. There's also the adjustable playback speed, which allows students to learn at a pace that works for them. These features make your teaching more flexible without adding extra work. And it's as easy as embedding a video into your course. Quizzes is a big one. Quick quizzes and warm-up questions are great for engagement and also for activating background knowledge. There are some you need to ensure that the quizzes are also meeting the students where they're at, and also suitable for every kind of learner. To help multilingual students and students who might lack some prior exposure, we need to provide them with some vocabulary scaffolds like definitions, examples, or short explanations, and of course option to have it translated into multiple languages. Now, these are small additions, but they make learning far more accessible and help students build confidence early. And yeah, coming to the, my favorite case study, this case study is one of the clearest demonstrations of what universal design for learning looks like in practice, and also why it matters so much. So I'm going to take this case study from the University of Milan. A blind undergraduate chemistry student was struggling at the University of Milan, not because of ability, but because the course relied heavily on visuals, molecular diagrams, reaction animations, lab demonstrations, all the things that are typically not accessible through text alone. Traditional accessibility tools like, say, screen readers or long textual descriptions, just weren't enough. Chemistry, especially, is spatial. It's all about shapes, directions, sequences, and movement. And standard text can't convey that level of visual nuance. So the question became, how do we translate a highly visual subject into a format that a visually impaired learner can actually use? And this is where audio description made all the difference, because the student shared that JoVE's audio description allowed them to actually see the experiment in their mind. That's important because audio description isn't just someone reading out what's on a screen. It's a structured translation of visual information into spatial language. I'll give you an example. Instead of saying the molecule rotates, an audio description might say the carbon chain rotates clockwise, bringing the hydroxyl group into alignment with the catalyst. That level of specificity helps the learner build a mental image and also build a mental model of the molecule. They aren't just hearing words, they are constructing a spatial map. And for this student, that from the University of Milan, audio description wasn't just an accommodation, it was the primary way that they were accessing the concepts. So, this was one of the most useful features that they found. The next piece that really helped was the JoVE core animations. Chemistry concepts, especially reactions and molecular structures, are complex because they involve multiple moving parts happening in sequence. JoVE animations slow this down. They break a reaction into small logical chunks, step by step, and provide a narration that explains not just what is happening, but also why it's happening. The animations use spatial cues, directional terms, and clear sequences, which basically allowed the student to mentally track the reaction. So instead of a huge wall of text or maybe a single dense diagram, the content becomes a series of manageable steps, manageable cognitive steps. This aligns perfectly with UDL because it achieves um, all of the principles of UDL. It reduces cognitive load, it offers a multimodal input, and also creates clarity through structure. And the third thing that really helped the student was the JoVE lab manual during the hands-on session. Now, before entering the lab, they would listen to the audio description of each step, almost like practicing choreography. Um, so, of course, audio description of the experiment was used to build a mental map of basically what the order of the steps were, what reactions would look like, or, in this case, sound like, safety procedures, how equipment was positioned. And by the time they physically entered the lab, they weren't walking in blind, they were walking in prepared. They had rehearsed the experiment cognitively, so the actual lab execution felt very structured and predictable rather than overwhelming. Now, this is also a perfect example of the UDL's principles of reducing barriers without reducing the actual intellectual challenge. And what's interesting here is to see um, how different JoVE resources work together. So the animations build the foundational understanding, the audio description filled in the spatial details, the lab manual helped the students to rehearse the procedures. And all of these three components reinforced each other, and that alignment also supported all three UDL principles at the same time. And just to give you a little bit of a refresher, the three principles of engagement, representation, and action and expression. All of these principles were met. And coming to the most important part, the results of the case study. The results speak for themselves. Once the student had access to content in a format that worked for their brain, everything changed. Their conceptual understanding improved dramatically. Their lab performance strengthened. They experienced a genuine sense of academic belonging. And interestingly, their tactile sensitivity, something which is often overlooked, became an advantage. They could detect subtle changes in texture and lab conditions that others sometimes missed. Also, they eventually, graduated at the top of their class and even supported their peers in the lab. This case beautifully demonstrates that when we remove the barrier, the student's ability shines through. Now, before I go on, I would love to hear from you. What is your main concern when you approach UDL? And feel free to drop it in the chat. But actually, I have a poll here for you. Um, this is our second and final poll for the session. There you go. Yeah. This would be, now that you understand what universal design for learning means and how you could go about approaching it or applying it in your courses, I do want to hear, what are some potential hurdles in this journey for you? It's interesting to see that six like a majority of the audience thinks that they do not know where to start or don't have enough time. Completely understandable. I will address each of these concerns one by one, so everybody has an answer. There's some answers still coming in. There's one answer which is not on the time constraints. Yep, I think it sounds like option number 3. Fair. uh, I'm just going to apologize. Hmm. Right. I'm going to end the poll and also share the results with everyone. So we're all on the same page. Um, as you can see, the major problem is that, I don't know where to start or don't have enough time, followed by students won't use the material I have provided. And the lowest happens to be UDL could lower academic standards and rigor for the whole class, which is also fair. Let me address each of these concerns one by one. All right. The first one was that students won't use optional materials. A great solution to this problem is to integrate these materials into quizzes or prep tasks. That way, they wouldn't feel like an additional task, but a part of their regular assessment workflows. Now, UDL reduces academic rigor. It actually doesn't, because the standards stay the same. We're just removing obstacles that prevent students from meeting those standards. So, by adding multiple modes of information, multiple modes of gaining information in your class. For example, I'll give you an example by adding a short video or a short quiz or poll questions, or by adding reflection questions in the middle of your course or in the middle of a topic, um, would just allow different kinds of learners. Maybe a visual learner understands better when they watch a video. Maybe a different type of learner needs to apply a problem to a real life solution. So, like they need to, appear for a quiz to actually grasp the concept. By adding multiple modes of understanding, wouldn't really necessarily reduce academic rigor, but the standards stay the same, for everyone. So even if somebody who's not a visual learner would still benefit from watching a video. So that's what I mean by the standards would remain the same. We're just removing obstacles to prevent students from meeting those standards. And the third one was the, most common one, which was I do not know where to start, or I will just add the time constraints issue here as well, that there are sometimes time constraints and my courses are pretty much set. And I do not want to, I already have a set number of lectures to go through these topics. And if I add something extra, I might lose out on lecture time. Fair. That's fair. I would suggest you to start simple. These by starting simple, it could be a short video, audio descriptions, diagrams, and they almost require no extra time, because these could also be part of preparatory material for the classroom. Students can have a look at all of these materials before they even enter the class. That's something which will improve their performance during lecture time. Um, they could refer to these. They could refer to the foundational concepts of a topic, before class, and then lecture time or the class time can be utilized for solving the more complex questions that they may have pertaining to the topic. So these are just some ideas. But if your problem is that there are major time constraints and it looks like a very unmanageable thing to do, well, luckily, we got you. At JoVE, our content is intentionally designed to support all three UDL principles. There are short animations, very clear live demonstrations. We have captions in over 12 languages. So, there's multilingual options as well. So we do not only have live captions, but the video can also be translated into multiple languages. There's of course audio description. All of these reduce barriers and help students engage more deeply with the content. This also means that faculty can build more inclusive courses without needing any extra time or any extra expertise. This would be the easiest way to incorporate universal design for learning in your classrooms. And actually, I would like to really show you an example. Let me just go through my slides, and I'm at this point. I will just show you an example by taking you to the JoVE video. Just hold on. There is, in the meantime, there is a question in the chat box whether a recording of this session will be shared. Yes, it will be shared. A recording of the session will be shared with everyone who registered for this session, irrespective of whether they were able to attend or not. And a certificate of attendance will be shared with everybody who is present here today and attended the session. I hope that helps. And I'm going to share an example. I hope you can see my screen.
Tissues are groups of structurally similar cells that work together as functional units. Based on their structure and function, tissues can be of 4 types. Epithelial tissues are composed of single or multiple cell layers that cover external body parts, line internal body surfaces, and form different glands. Muscle tissues consist of specialized contractile cells that facilitate body movements. Connective tissues contain cells in a viscous matrix of extracellular fibers. They provide structural support.
I hope you could hear the video. I had the share sound on. But yeah, just to give you an example, this is how a JoVE core video looks like. It is, you will have high impact animations in small bite-sized, more digestible, also better for cognitive understanding sizes. We also, of course, have the multiple accessibility features right here. You can listen to this video in multiple languages or also add subtitles to the video in multiple languages. There's also the option to reduce playback speed, which is very useful for someone who wants to grasp the concept at their own pace. So this allows them to do that. They can change the playback speed. And actually, let me also show you an example of, if you go to, any one of a JoVE video, yeah, there is also a very detailed, text under the video. So if you are not a visual learner and you actually need a video with some supported text to better understand or understand the content more deeply, you could do that as well. There's the option to do that. And for the sake of your courses, to embed the content, you can also embed this video in any LMS that you may use. It's very easy to do. I've actually shared a form in the chat box, and I will just share it again. This is the form that you could fill if you would like curated content mapped to your syllabus. Once you fill the form, even if you don't have a syllabus document available right off the bat, fill the form without attaching your syllabus, and we will be in touch with you to then request, your topics of interest. So you could just simply let us know whether your topic of interest is, say, organic chemistry. Let us know the level of teaching, whether it's an undergraduate course or postgraduate course, and we will send you content accordingly that we have. So I encourage you to fill the form, irrespective of whether you have any course document to attach just yet or not. And yeah, that was it for today. We've reached the end of the session. I hope it was useful, and I hope there were some take-home points and strategies in this session. And I see that there aren't any questions just yet. There is a question in the chat box. How do you ensure students engage and familiarize with the materials provided before they actively participate? It's extremely important for the students to, receive material beforehand so that they can actively participate or show some active engagement. Now, how do you ensure that they engage and familiarize with the materials? It's basically a question on how do I engage students, right? So we need to meet today's learners where they're at. They're at, they're learning through videos. They are learning through multimedia resources. So the best way to get the students to engage actively would be to, again, give them content in a format that they prefer, which is videos. And I've also noticed that students really appreciate um, complex concepts being discussed during the class, and trusting them enough that they will engage with the basic foundational key concepts on their own. So that's one way to ensure engagement, because should they have not gone through all of the supporting material before class, it's very easy to identify that during classroom time when the time to address complex questions come. Can we add pop-up questions in a JoVE video? We actually have a couple of videos with a pop-up feature, a question pop-up quiz feature in them. It's a beta feature that we are testing, but I don't think you can add it. You cannot customize the questions, but you can create custom quizzes on JoVE as well. And I will share my screen with you, again, and I will walk you through that platform as well, wherein you can create your own JoVE, custom JoVE quizzes, with some questions that, of course, JoVE already has in their database, but you can also customize them. Are there any resources or material for wind energy or renewable energy sources, and also topics in sustainable engineering concepts? So for this question, I would encourage you to fill the form. I think this is Sridhar. Yeah. Hello, Sridhar. Thank you for your question. I would really encourage you to fill the form, because once you fill the form, and one of our CS representatives will be in touch with you. All you need to do is share your topics with them, and they will immediately send you content in all of these topics. And I can already see that the renewable energy sources and engineering concepts, we already have content around all of these topics. So you will definitely benefit from filling up the form. Thank you, Aditi. By when I could expect? You should expect the curated content within a week, because it takes the team some time to put it together. but it usually does not go over a week. So anyone wondering when they should expect the curated content, they should expect it within 7 days. Okay. All right. I will now take this a couple of minutes. We have covered universal design learning and all of the principles associated with it. I've also shown you a JoVE video and how it meets the principles of universal design learning in a very easy format, a video format. But there's also another thing we discussed, which was the JoVE quizzes. That's also another format which supports learning for different kinds of learners. And once you go on, I'm actually going to navigation. I'll just show you how to navigate to that platform. So this is the JoVE homepage. On the left tab, you will find the option for quizzes. Now, there is already an existing quiz library to select your topic from. You can simply add your topic here. Maybe it's organic chemistry, and all of the pre-made JoVE quizzes will appear right here. But if you wish to customize some of these quizzes, for example, let me open this one. Yeah, this is how the JoVE quiz platform looks like. You have a video followed by a couple of MCQ questions. You could either edit these exact questions or add your own custom questions as well. These quizzes can also be embedded inside an LMS. So that's also possible. If you wish to discover how to embed videos or quizzes inside your preferred LMS, whether it's Blackboard, Moodle, to name a few, and these quizzes and videos we can embed them in almost any LMS. So do reach out, do fill the form. That's the primary way to reach out to us, and we will be in touch with you and walk you through the same through even a one-on-one session if required. Yeah. Let me see if in the meantime there is any. There's a question on can I download these videos and MCQs? At this time, we do not offer, we cannot download the video for, for viewing. However, if your institution subscribes to JoVE, the JoVE content will be freely accessible to all students, all faculty, staff. And if we have the IP of your institution, then the JoVE content will also be freely available inside the campus, anywhere inside the campus, and also at home if you log in using your institutional ID, email ID. Yeah. So that's about it. Let me look at other questions. Is it compatible with a quizzes platform? That's a good question. It should be compatible with a quizzes platform if it's a learning management system. And also, I haven't heard of this specific learning management system. So, if it's a learning management system, it will be compatible with it. I encourage you to fill the form and get in touch with us, because we can discuss further. We can check over a one-on-one call whether this content can be embedded on this particular learning management system. Again, I apologize. I haven't heard about this one. All right. If I don't see any more questions in the chat box, and I hope I've covered every single one of them. Yep. And there's also none in the Q&A box. All right. So then with that, we approach the end of the session. Thank you for joining. Thank you for staying through till the very end with me. And we're approaching the end of this year. If you have attended, a couple of these sessions, these faculty workshops in the past, we've had one almost every other month this year. We will have many more next year as well. So we're ending this year with this particular session on universal design for learning. But next year, we will have similarly interesting, relevant topics and also solutions to these, issues. But we will be discussing very interesting topics. We will be discussing interesting pain points for faculty members, along with providing some usable, relevant solutions to these problems. So I hope to see you in the next year for one of these sessions. We will have many in 2026 as well. Thank you for your lovely comments in the chat box. I really appreciate it. And I'm glad to see that this was informative and you found some value in this session. I hope everybody, found some actionable steps to take away from this session. And with that, I thank you. And yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. I will give you about 15 minutes back to your day. Thank you.